I believe the Falcons' most recent roster move indicates a clear message and a new mentality for the Dirty Birds heading into the 2025 season. Welcome in, Falcons fans, to Falcons Today by Chat Sports. My name is Moose. Apologies for the disheveled appearance with the backwards hat. Brain fog was real this morning. I just threw on whatever was available, and that included a hat. You should see the hat hair under this. It's awful. Let's talk about this most recent roster move, which, of course, was the signing of John Parker Romo, who was unbelievable in Sunday Night Football against the Minnesota Vikings. Before we get into this whole new message and mentality, I have to ask you, what is your confidence level going into Week 3? Scale of 1 to 10 for me. I got to think I'm at about an 8 right now. I was really, really impressed with what this coaching staff's game plan was against the Minnesota Vikings. I'm expecting more coming into Week 3 against the Carolina Panthers. Like I said, the coaching staff sent a clear message. And that message indicates to me where their mentality is for this team moving forward. If we take it back just a few weeks ago, when Younghoe Koo missed that game-tying field goal, Raheem Morris was asked right at that point, what are you going to do about the kicker position? Morris said, we're going to bring in other people. We're going to work them out. Signs John Parker Romo to the practice squad. He comes into Monday Night Football, gets elevated, or Sunday Night Football gets elevated, makes 5 of 5, was unbelievable. Similarly, Orlando Ledbetter reporting this. Raheem Morris was asked also about John Parker Romo starting in Week 3. And Morris said there is a 90% chance that Parker Romo is the kicker for the Panthers game. Now, he can't speak in absolutes, so I understand why he says 90%. You never want to be that decisive and then have your mind change the last second. So I understand where he's coming from, but make no mistake, it's going to be John Parker Romo, in my opinion. Here's where that new mentality comes in. Champ Bailey was talking about this decision by Raheem Morris to bench Younghoe Koo this early in the season. And here is what was said by 680 The Fan about Champ Bailey's comments. Champ Bailey says the Falcons' decision to bench Koo sent a clear message. Losing isn't acceptable. He believes that mentality shift is why Atlanta dominated the Vikings on Sunday Night Football. Exactly. You have to change the mentality. I think if we go back a couple of seasons when the Falcons were under Arthur Smith, or even just last year when they were under Raheem Morris, this team probably would have been more along the lines of, well, mistakes happen, we got to clean it up, we got to be better. And this year, it's completely different. Because you have new talent, because your defense is better, because you're entering now into year 2 with Michael Penix Jr. The Falcons had to get a new identity. And they did. What is that new identity? It's not just a mentality thing. It is a philosophy with the X's and O's as well. And that new identity is we are going to play old school smash mouth football. We are going to run it down your throat, and we are going to beat this shit out of you on the football field. Even if we lose the game, you are going to come in playing the Atlanta Falcons, and you are going to leave worse for wear than when you came in to play them. And if you don't believe me or you're like, Moose, it's only week 2. This is way too early to be saying this. Take a look at where the Falcons rank right now in defensive statistics. Second in yards allowed per game. Second in passing yards allowed per game. Rushing yards, top 10. And then points per game. 14.5 points per game allowed. Second. So 2, 2, 9, and 2. And the numbers don't lie. The last time the Falcons defense was top 10 in points allowed and yards allowed was 2017. You have to go back 8 years to get those numbers. This Falcons coaching staff recognizes the talent that is currently on the roster, and they will not allow for these little mistakes. And if you make these little mistakes and cost your team victories, you will not be on the Atlanta Falcons. Period. Point blank. Not Arthur blank. It's a little fun joke there. Producer Alper liked that one. So I'll ask you this question before we continue on with our episode. Is this a top 10 defense in the NFL? Yes or no? The numbers literally do not lie. As of right now, yes, they are a top 10 unit in the NFL. Can that be sustained? I do think so. But either way, let me know in the comment section down below. Coming up next, little rumor portion of today's episode. The Kirk Cousins trade rumors have halted. Why? It has everything to do with that green, y'all. That pape, that Coles cash, if you will. So let's get into that. But first, I have to tell you about my friends from Prize Picks. Today's episode is sponsored by Prize Picks, and you and I make decisions every single day. But on Prize Picks, you could actually get paid to be right. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. It's very simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. It is the best way to win cash this football season. You could join millions of users and sign up today. How does it work? Here is my lineup just for you. The Matt Olson, I comboed this, professional baseball, professional football. Matt Olson on the more on the hitting score, followed by James Cook and Michael Penix on the more as well. And then, of course, Patrick Mahomes, my max discount play on the more of half a passing yard. Your lineup can look like this, but it can look different as well. Just download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. So Kirk Cousins, we talked earlier this week about the opportunity to maybe explore a trade for the Cincinnati Bengals because Joe Burrow is now out for the season. And there are a ton of different quarterbacks, by the way, but the Bengals kind of made the most sense. And here was my trade idea that I had about how the Falcons could package this to give Kirk Cousins away. I did preface this by saying the Bengals would have to take on about half of Kirk's salary that he is getting paid, which is $27.5 million. So you're looking at roughly like $13.75 million that the Bengals would have to take on in order to make this work. That's all they've got in available cap space. But then Diana Rossini was on her podcast called Scoop City, where she basically goes from camp to camp or team to team and finds out the latest scoops on those teams and then reports it. And here's what she had to say about the Kirk Cousins trade rumors, because they've been flying all over the media. She said, from what I can gather, the Atlanta Falcons are not trying to move him at this moment. And the reason for this has to do with the money. And it isn't just the fact that you have to pay Kirk $27.5 million and find someone to take on at least a portion of that. Kirk has a dead cap hit this year of $37.5 million. That's awful. That is a big-time hurt and big-time gut punch to the pocketbook. The Falcons do not want to take that on. Trust me, Terry Fontenot looks at that and goes, yeah, look, he's going to stick around as the backup. Now, I do want to say that I don't think they're completely dead, these trade rumors. While they might be halted for the time being, I do think that there is a team that would be interested, based off of recent moves and recent sound bites that I've gathered throughout the NFL, that could be interested at the trade deadline. Who is that? The Minnesota Vikings, the team that Kirk Cousins came from. Why the Minnesota Vikings? Well, not only does Kirk understand the Kevin O'Connell system and has familiarity in the franchise, but there are four other reasons why the Vikings have a bit of a problem right now. J.J. McCarthy looks lost, and Kevin O'Connell came out and was like, well, he's got this ankle injury. He came out like 12 hours after the game ended and said, well, he's not going to play week 3. We're going to start Carson Wentz, which the timing on that felt weird. I'm not going to say he's lying about the ankle injury, but let's be honest. J.J. McCarthy looked lost. Part of that was because the Falcons' defense looked so good. 15.73 million, in available cap right now. So they could take on a portion of that Kirk Cousins salary. They went 14-3 last year, so this team is in win-now mode. And Carson Wentz is the backup. I don't care what you think about Carson Wentz. He has been a backup for the last 5 years of his career, and that's all he'll ever be. So the question now becomes, could the Vikings be that desperate? If they find themselves on the wrong side of 500 by the trade deadline, let's say they're at, what is the trade deadline? Is that week 9? Is it week 8 or week 9, producer Alper? It's one of those two. Either way, let's call it week 9. Let's say they're 4-5 or 3-6. Week 9. I was correct. November 5th, week 9. If they're 4-5 or 3-6 heading into that portion and they still believe that they have wins under their belt, they could end up calling the Atlanta Falcons and saying, okay, we need Kirk for the short term. What's it going to take? And there you go. There's your answer. You can put up the trade that I put I had for the Cincinnati Bengals if you want, producer Alper, and we can kind of dissect it really, really close. But we'll know, obviously, closer to the trade deadline. I don't think you would get nearly as much for this. Maybe you would. I would still stick with around what this package would look like, which is Kirk Cousins goes to the Vikings, and then, of course, the Falcons would receive like a 4th, a 5th, or a 7th. Maybe it's a little bit less. Maybe they could squeeze out a little bit more. Either way, nobody knows. We'll find out as we get closer to the trade deadline. Which leads me to my final question before we end today's episode. Will Kirk get traded at the deadline? Trade or keep? I think you got to trade him. If somebody can take on at least 50% of that salary and you can get draft capital in return for a guy that is holding a clipboard, getting paid $27.5 million a year, I think you do it. Before I actually do get on out of here, though, I do want to thank you and remind you that we are this close to hitting 40,000 subscribers here on the channel. If you haven't done so already and you love Falcons content, this is the best place to do it on YouTube. So lock us in and hit that subscribe button. Falcons fans, I will see you all on the weekend. Rise up and be cool.